Welcome back to the Tennessee Frugal Craftsman. We are ready for windows out here. Spent the morning, finished sheathing in the last section over here, and then I put the house wrap on it, tore down the scaffolding, or most of it, so I could get access back to my doorway. And now I am working up on the inside. Decided to do the master bedroom ceiling, as much of it as possible, before I moved to the stairs down here, the main stairs. It was just mainly because I had a lot of material up there on the floor and I was trying to clean it up. So I will show you in a few minutes what I'm doing up there, but on the outside we have a completed framed octagon. I'll be back. I am in the process of building a tray ceiling up here in the master bedroom. This is in the octagon area. Now, in the beginning of this video I showed you what the octagon looked from the outside, and we're dealing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 8 slopes. Slopes 1 and 5 disappear, come over here to this one, they disappear into the main wall, and that's why the ceiling, the roof line, continues on over to the dormer. On this side it continues from this point, short wall, instead of extending a full 6'8", 5'10" or something, and then continues into the valley. But up here in the master bedroom, I wanted the full effect of what the octagon was going to look like in the master bedroom. So I am up here framing the master bedroom ceiling. Now that doesn't mean the bed is going to be sitting here in the middle of this octagon, but for aesthetic purposes I wanted it to be kind of the center of the tension and be able to hang a chandelier, or sorry, a fan down from this main center point. Eventually I will have LED pot lights all the way around here, indirect lighting up around the top, just something like a rope lighting, low voltage. So first thing I needed to do is build in my main supports for my rafters. That is what these are for. These are running, going out and just tying into the rafter tails themselves. You can see where I went along and just attached to the rafter tails. So when everything is sheathed in with, you know, your drywall and whatnot, everything becomes rigid. So that comes around, and wherever I could tie in, I started with the box. This box was 128 inches. These pieces were 128 inches long each. And so I ran those, tied everything, put lots of spikes, tied to the walls. Still got a little bit of touch-ups here and there, but most of it is done. Then, obviously on this side where there wasn't an octagon, I ran a 16-foot piece clear across, and I'm going to put in blocking like I'm doing here and tie it to the last one. There's really no weight on this per se. This is more aesthetic. The weight is out there on the hips, down onto the main walls. And there's going to be knee walls underneath. As you can see, I've got temporary supports up there now underneath the valley and the hip. There will be knee walls coming in at about 4 feet. So those will be supported onto the main floor. Once I got the main box framed in, I went along and measured everything off so I could get kind of equidistance here from one point to the next. Now these are just temporary up there. Just got them tacked with screws to make sure everything is on. My distances are about 53 inches. Now there was no question that when you're framing an octagon, everything's not going to be perfect. This front wall, these three front walls here were just a little bit out as far as size-wise. So the distance on this and this and this is a little bit different. They're about 53.5 or so, as opposed to 53. But they're pretty close. Pretty much everything is at 53, 53.25. And so my next step is to attach these, and then I'm going to put in a main centerpiece back over here just to kind of give me something when I'm nailing my strapping, that I have something to nail to. And get that done, and I will come back and show you kind of the next step of the process. Because I've got to get this floor, what is classified as quote-unquote my floor structure or tray, built before I can make the false ceiling up here, which is going to be fun. So I'll be back. Okay, the next step is done. I have put in all of these angular pieces, plus I have put in support block this way for nailing. I did that on the 4 corners. Come around here. So you can see that. I have also gone in and put in every 16 inches I put blocks to stabilize this 2x10. Plus I stepped in and put in nailer blocks here in this section. And the reason for that is my secondary roof is going to step in about 1 foot or 6 inches, I should say, from the edge of the actual tray. And that is so, I'll just show you here what I've got. So these are going, there's going to be, I'm going to put in board in here about 12 inches from this edge. And that way the rafter will set here and go up. And that'll give me about a 6-inch area for indirect lighting just to set up here. Now eventually when I finish this, I will put on probably about a 1-inch piece of wood all the way around the perimeter and bring my drywall up past it, so there'll be a little bit of a drop in behind so you can't see the indirect lighting. But everything now is ready for boarding in, or the little floor that I got to put up here, which is my next step. So I'll be back. Just sit back here and give you a little bit, kind of get a feel for what it looks like. Okay, I've been working away here. Should have been doing more videotaping. First thing I did after I got the perimeter material in is I took boards and I boarded in about 14 inches back. This is going to give me my base to screw my rafters to. So those are all in. Then the next step is I framed a center piece for the top. Now I'm going to come down, show you what I did. That's what it looks like. It's an octagon. The sides are 13.25 each. Now I just kind of arbitrarily did that. What I was looking for is a big enough or a flat enough area where I could put a ceiling fan up there. I also wanted to be able to put 2 pieces each way off each one of those for stabilization. Now to lay that out, what I did, grab my broom here, just give me a second, I just get a little dusky in here. Finally getting decent to work, it was so hot. Just get it swept off here, I don't know whether you can see it. what it is, I laid it out, you're not going to be able to see this, I laid it out on the floor. I took a square piece of plywood, obviously, and I just laid it out, squared everything, put a square on the floor, and then just sniped the corners equidistant. That's what this is here. So this square would have continued on out and down. I sniped it off at 13 1/4 and then came over to the next one. I laid that whole thing out. I used a really good quality compound miter saw, and you want to get those 22 1/2 degree angles as close as possible. Then what I did is I screwed them all together. I screwed the perimeter together. First I tacked it with a staple gun, air staple gun. And then once I got that perimeter together, then I put those stabilizers across to keep it from spreading. And it was equidistant here, and I just put those blocks in. So it was 28 1/2, 28 5/8 each way. So I knew I had a perfect octagon. Then the next step was to find the center, which is that point up there. And I just dropped blocks down, measured over 14 1/2, which is what I was on the inside from the center point out to this edge, each way, and put it up there and screwed and attached that. Now it's easiest with a couple guys. I had scaffolding up here, did it by myself. But once that's in, I set the level up there and got it level. I began to measure down from there, and this is where I'll come back up, show you what I did. Sorry if this is a little confusing, but it's all about geometry. I took this octagon, measured in 6 inches on each end, and drew a line across. That's what this line here is, right there. Once that line is on there, I found the center. It's not going to focus here. There you go. Come back into focus. I found the center line of these pieces here. After the center line, I just squared straight in, and I measured over 13 1/4 to the outside edge. So it's what, 6 5/8 each way from the center line, and drew a square line. That meant that when I put these in, they're going to match the 13 1/4 up there, which is what I had. So these, they're 13 1/4 spread on each end. I did that on both sides. And so what I'm doing is I picked 2 opposite points, measured from the bottom of my octagon down to this line here. Once I got to that line, got that measurement, I checked it on each side and figured out if it was different. This was out about, this one was, I think, was 63 3/4. This one was 63 3/8. So what I did is I averaged it, and then I used an angle finder and just kind of worked a bit until I got the right angles on it. This was actually close to a 7/12. And I made 2 pieces exactly the same. So when I put them in there, one on each side, I pushed this until they were the same on each side. So, and it stayed in level. And so that's how you get it situated, so everything, when I finish this, is going to have equidistant angles or slopes. So each of those are 63 5/8 down to the disappearing point, short point, short point. Now I've got 4 in there. That's stabilized. Now I'm going to put 2 here and 2 down there. Once I have 8 in, I can take out all my blocks, and then I can finish up the other 4. And so that's my next step. I'm going to measure down, find out what my distance is there, and do the same on this side, take an average. So I'm going to find that out, and then I'm going to, once I get that average, I'm going to make, based upon my original pattern, I made a pattern off of these. I'm going to see if they're the same. I'll be back. Okay, it's the next day. I have now completed all of the doubles back down to the main, what I classify as the floor, but it's actually the ceiling level. I've taken out all the braces that attached it to the ceiling to get the thing adjusted and set. It's level each way, pretty close. And kind of the most important thing is that when you're setting that, you just take your time and set one side. Make sure that whatever you make here for a pattern or a piece matches the opposite side down here. And when I was done, all of these are within probably 1/4 of an inch on their length. Angles are all consistent pretty well across the board. I am now making the hips, which is a little more interesting because the angles in there are not 45s, they're closer to 60 degrees, so you can't cut them easily on with any type of saw. You pretty much have to either use a hand saw, reciprocating saw, or unless you have a compound miter saw that goes beyond 45 degrees. And so everything is now stable. I could hang an elephant pretty much off of that centerpiece, and it's going to support it out here on this edge. Now, when I did these, I used screws on everything so I could make adjustments as I went. So you can see here, put a couple screws on each side, put one down through the top here, a couple down into the boards to get those stabilized. But again, the important thing is, you'll notice here, I've got lines to make sure that bottom point is lined up with those lines. If you do that consistently around the outside, then that's how you keep your tray all consistent as far as the length. If you don't put those lines on there, or you haven't taken the time to make these as close as possible, then your pieces going down are going to be all over the place as far as length. And so a little bit of extra time early on saves a lot of headache later on and gives you a better job. And so that is the step I'm on to get the hips in now. So I've got to have 8 of those. So it's going to take some time cutting it out, but I will come back and show you what that looks like. As I'm finishing up the hips here, I want to show you a little secret of how I'm cutting those, because those are greater than a 45-degree angle, but they're about 2 inches deep, 1 7/8 to 2 inches deep. So I mark them out like as I have here, with the center line from the top face along the top here down the face of the cut. Then I mark my angles, as you can see here, at about 2 inches, 1 7/8 to 2 inches. And then I join the marks over here. This is going to give me something to guide my skill saw by. And I'll show you what I do with my skill saw and how I cut those. Let me just set up my tripod here. Okay, so now I've got nice sharp point here, got my angles, everything's ready to go. So we're going to put the last couple in. I'll bring you along for that. All right, we are now complete. So there's 4 pieces per angle. 2, 4, 6, 8, 16 plus 8, so 24 pieces. I mean, obviously you got the common ones for both angles, so there's 4 less, but that's a lot of wood, a lot of angles. So I'm going to come up close, kind of show you what I have here. So the key in this particular case is not having to put in the smaller rafters. So the ones coming off of this hip, which would be a really sharp angle. So I've got about 24 inches down there, but it narrows in really quick. So up about 2 feet, I'm at almost 16 inches across. So I'm not going to worry about putting in those secondary rafters off my hips down here, like I would have on the main house out there. On the main, you can see them out there on the main roof. Because all this is holding is just sheetrock and a little bit of insulation. It's a solid as a church. All the downward pressure, everything's screwed together. The only thing I have left to do is I'm going to put a block right here in the middle to attach a ceiling fan to. So I'm going to put like a piece of 2x10 up there. I'll show you that in a minute. But other than that, the angles, as you can see, tried to keep them as tight as possible. Keep the angles in snug. And that way of doing it with the clamps definitely helped. Out here I set and put a line with the intersection of my 6-inch, where I'm in 6 inches, put the intersection. That's how I got the center right there of that. So all of those hips are centered. So let's put in the last block up there and I'll be done with the cathedral. This will be ready for wiring and installation. Okay, for now, I just put a couple screws in that. I'm not sure whether I'm going to use a pancake box, half-inch pancake box, which would be the same thickness as the material that I'm making, your drywall, or whether I'll do an octagon, and that way, in that case, I'll set the block up in the thickness of the octagon, or of the box plus the drywall. So, but for now, that is a completed vaulted octagon ceiling. It took me about a day and a half, 2 days, long days to do it. By the time I did all of the framing down here, the actual octagon itself, the rafters took about probably 7 hours or so to do this all in. So that's my project for today. As far as for the video, I'm going to set up downstairs and start doing a set of stairs, a set of winders. I'll try to videotape some of that. But until next time, till that video, as always, you have a great day.